And I have a question for you. Do you know how many books there are in the Bible? Well, if you said 66, you're right. And today we're going to talk about some of the books of the Bible. Did you also know that the Bible is broken up into sections? So say you want to know about creation, or you want to read about Moses, or you want to read about the birth of Jesus, or say you want to get a glimpse of heaven. Well, where do you go? There's a book for that. And today we're going to talk about the first 5 books of the Bible. So the first 5 books of the Bible is called the Pentateuch. Now that's a big word. Have you ever heard of pentagon? So that's something with 5 sides. So that's why it's called the Pentateuch. And it's Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. And that is considered the law. So the book of Genesis means beginnings. And there's a lot of beginnings in Genesis. It talks about creation, when God created the whole world. It talks about when He created us. You know what else it talks about? It tells us the first of sin. It tells us the first fall of man, and it also whispers Jesus' name. It shows us our need for a Savior. And the book of Genesis lays out so many stories that points us to our Savior. So after we read about Genesis and we learn about God's chosen people, the Israelites, then we get to Exodus. And you can remember Exodus like exit. It's the story of God's chosen people, the Israelites, and their exit. The next book is Leviticus. And Leviticus is like the rule book, and sometimes it's kind of hard to read. It lays out all the laws and all the things that people were supposed to do. Now, how many of the Israelites do you think kept those laws perfectly? None of them. And guess how many of us keep it perfectly now? None of us. But you know what Leviticus reminds us of? It reminds us that God knew we could not keep that law. He was showing us how broken and sinful we were, and He was also pointing us to our Savior, so that Jesus would someday come and keep the law perfectly and save us from what we deserved. That's good news, friends. And next up is Numbers. And Numbers is exactly that. It's the numbers. It's kind of like a census. Did your family do a census this year? It's basically when the officials want to count everybody that's in the area. And so Numbers tells us all the people that were in the area at the time. And the 5th book we're going to talk about is Deuteronomy. Now, Deuteronomy is kind of like a review of the other books. It talks about a little bit of the history of what God's already told us. It reviews the 10 commandments, and it reminds the Israelites that there are consequences to disobeying the laws. And it's a reminder for us today as well. There are consequences when we disobey, but when we do obey God and we follow His ways and we follow Jesus, we are blessed beyond measure. Psalm 119 tells us that joyful are people of integrity who follow the instructions of the Lord. Joyful are those who obey His laws and search for Him with all of their hearts. And sometimes these first 5 books of the Bible, the law, can feel kind of heavy. But when we read them, we need to remember that God gave us these words because He loves us so much. And when we're reading these books, it's not about us. It's about God and what He has done for us and the reminder He's giving us that we should be putting our faith and our love in Jesus. That's where our joy comes from, friends. When we love God and we seek to live how He calls us to live, we are full of the love and the peace that can only come from Jesus. That's it, GC Kids. See you next week.